The rain pelted down mercilessly on Harper June Monroe's shoulders as she struggled with the broken stroller. Her 10-month-old son, Noah Alexander, pressed tightly against her chest. The fabric of her worn denim jacket was already soaked through, but she didn't care. Her only concern was keeping her baby dry under the thin protection of her body and the small blanket she'd wrapped around him. "Shh, it's okay, sweet pea," she whispered, pressing her lips against Noah's forehead as he whimpered softly. His favorite comfort cloth, a small blue blanket with an elephant pattern, was clutched tightly in his tiny fist. The streetlights of their small Connecticut town cast long shadows across the wet sidewalk, and Harper's feet splashed through puddles as she maneuvered the broken stroller with one hand. The wheel had given out just 2 blocks from Sweetness and Light Bakery, where she'd spent the last 12 hours on her feet. The scent of fresh bread and coffee still clung to her clothes, mixing with the clean, sharp smell of rain. Her honey-colored eyes scanned the quiet street, searching for any sign of the late-night bus that could save her from the 3-mile walk home. A sleek black Audi slowed beside her, its headlights cutting through the rain. Harper's fingers instinctively tightened around the silver necklace at her throat, her mother's last gift before passing away 2 years ago. The car's window rolled down smoothly, revealing a man's concerned face, illuminated by the dashboard lights. "Do you need assistance?" The voice was deep, cultured with an underlying warmth that caught Harper off guard. She hesitated, years of hard-learned caution warring with desperate circumstance. The man stepped out of his car before she could respond, and Harper's breath caught in her throat. He stood well over 6 feet tall, his expensive suit a stark contrast to her rain-soaked work clothes. Despite his imposing height, there was something in his steel-gray eyes that spoke of genuine concern. "I'm Callum Hayes," he offered, keeping a respectful distance as rain darkened his perfectly styled black hair. "The stroller. May I help?" Noah chose that moment to let out a tired cry, and Harper's protective instincts wavered. She was exhausted, her arms aching from carrying her growing boy, and the thought of walking 3 more miles in this weather made her want to cry along with her son. "The wheel's broken," she found herself saying, her voice barely audible above the rain. Harper, this is Noah." Callum moved closer, his movements deliberate and non-threatening. He examined the stroller with efficient precision, his long fingers testing the damaged wheel. "This isn't salvageable tonight," he concluded, then gestured to his car. "Please, let me drive you home. It's not safe to walk in this weather." Harper's fingers tightened around her necklace again. "I don't accept rides from strangers," she said firmly, even as Noah shivered against her chest. "Of course," Callum nodded, respect evident in his tone. He reached into his suit jacket and produced a business card, offering it to her. "I'm the CEO of Hayes Innovative Solutions. You can look up my credentials right now if you'd like. He paused, and something flickered across his controlled features. "I couldn't live with myself if I drove away and something happened to you or your son." Harper shifted Noah to one arm and accepted the card, the thick paper stock feeling expensive, between her fingers. Her phone confirmed his identity, countless articles about the young CEO who'd built his company from nothing. Still, she hesitated. "I have a car seat," Callum added quietly. "My sister has a little one about his age. I keep it installed for when I drive them around." That detail, so practical and unexpected, finally broke through Harper's defenses. She looked at Noah's tired face, then at the long, dark road ahead. "Okay," she conceded, "but I'm taking a picture of your license plate first." A ghost of a smile touched Callum's lips. "Smart," he approved, helping her fold the broken stroller and store it in his trunk. The interior of his car was warm and smelled of leather, the back seat indeed equipped with a high-end car seat that Noah settled into easily. As they drove through the rain-slicked streets, Harper gave directions in a soft voice, hyper-aware of every turn. Callum drove carefully, occasionally glancing in the rearview mirror at Noah, who had finally drifted off to sleep. The blue building on the left, Harper indicated when they reached her modest apartment complex. Callum pulled up under the awning, shielding them from the rain, and insisted on helping her carry both Noah and the stroller to her door. Under the harsh fluorescent lights of the hallway, Harper could see him clearly for the first time. His pale skin and sharp features spoke of long hours indoors, but there was strength in his jaw and kindness in the lines around his eyes. He looked oddly out of place in the worn corridor, like a character who'd wandered out of a different story entirely. "Thank you," she said sincerely, adjusting Noah's weight in her arms. "You didn't have to do this." "I wanted to," Callum replied simply. He hesitated, then added, "The bakery, Sweetness and Light, is that where you work?" Harper nodded, wondering why he asked. "I pass by there sometimes," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "Maybe I'll stop in for coffee tomorrow morning." She should have said something discouraging, should have maintained the boundaries that had kept her safe since Noah's father disappeared. Instead, she found herself saying, "We open at 6. The cinnamon rolls are best when they're fresh out of the oven." Something warmed in Callum's gray eyes. "6 it is then." He turned to leave, then paused. "Harper, take care of yourself, both of you." She watched him walk away, his tall figure disappearing down the stairs, and felt something shift in her carefully ordered world. Later, as she tucked Noah into his crib and changed out of her damp clothes, Harper told herself it was just a random act of kindness, nothing more. But when she finally lay in her own bed, listening to the rain against her window and Noah's soft breathing through the baby monitor, her fingers found her mother's necklace again. For the first time in months, the gesture wasn't born of anxiety, but of something else, something that felt dangerously like hope. The pre-dawn air at Sweetness and Light Bakery hummed with the familiar rhythm of Harper's morning routine. Her hands worked methodically, kneading dough while the industrial mixer whirred behind her. The clock on the wall read 5:15 a.m. and golden. Light was just beginning to peek through the kitchen's small window. "Someone's in a good mood today," remarked Ruby Chen, the bakery's owner. The older woman's keen brown eyes missed nothing as she arranged fresh muffins in the display case. "You've been humming for the past hour." Harper's fingers stilled in the dough. She hadn't even realized she'd been humming, an old habit she'd lost somewhere between Noah's birth and endless months of struggling alone. "Just feeling grateful? For small mercies," she replied, thinking of last night's rain and an unexpected guardian angel in an expensive suit. Ruby adjusted her flour-dusted apron, a knowing smile playing at her lips. "Small mercies don't usually drive luxury cars or leave business cards in your jacket pocket." Heat crept up Harper's neck. She'd forgotten about the card still tucked in her pocket, its edges now slightly softened from the rain. "He was just being kind," she said firmly, perhaps too firmly. "Besides, men like that don't really see women like me. Not really." "And what kind of woman are you exactly?" Ruby challenged, her voice carrying the wisdom of her 65 years. "A hard-working mother who's raising a beautiful boy on her own? Who hasn't missed a single day of work in 2 years? Who still manages to smile at every customer despite everything?" Before Harper could respond, Noah's babbling came through the baby monitor clipped to her apron. He was in the bakery's back office, which Ruby had helped convert into a makeshift daycare space when Harper couldn't afford regular childcare. "I've got him," Ruby insisted, wiping her hands. "You finish those cinnamon rolls. Something tells me we might have some special customers this morning." Harper watched her boss disappear into the back, then turned to the oven where the first batch of rolls was almost ready. The rich scent of cinnamon and butter filled the air, and she found herself wondering if Callum Hayes would really show up. Men like him made promises all the time, casual, empty words that evaporated in the morning light. The bell above the door chimed at exactly 6 a.m. Harper's heart jumped as she peered through the kitchen door's round window. Callum stood in the entrance, somehow looking even more impressive in the morning light. His charcoal suit was impeccable, his presence commanding yet slightly uncertain as he surveyed the cozy space. "Good morning," she managed, stepping out to the counter. "You're punctual." "Force of habit," he replied, his gray eyes warming as they met hers. Today they looked almost blue in the early light, and Harper noticed faint circles under them, as if he hadn't slept well. "Rough night?" she found herself asking. A small smile touched his lips. Let's just say I kept thinking about a broken stroller and wondering if I should have done more. The sincerity in his voice made something flutter in Harper's chest. You did more than enough, she assured him, then gestured to the display case. Now, about that cinnamon roll I promised. Actually, Callum stepped closer to the counter. I was hoping for 2, and coffee. Would you join me, if you can? The question hung in the air between them, weighted with possibility. Harper glanced at the clock, then toward the back where she could hear Noah's delighted giggles mixing with Ruby's gentle cooing. I have a 15-minute break at 6:30, she offered carefully. Callum's entire face brightened, and Harper was struck by how it transformed his features, from merely handsome to almost boyishly charming. I can wait, he said, settling into a corner table with his laptop. For the next 30 minutes, Harper was hyper-aware of his presence as she served other customers. The early morning regulars who barely looked up from their phones, construction workers grateful for hot coffee, teachers rushing to make first bell. Callum worked quietly at his table, but she caught him watching her several times, his expression thoughtful. At 6:30, Ruby emerged from the back with Noah in her arms. Look who's ready to say good morning to Mama, she announced, then stopped short at the sight of Callum. Her eyes darted between him and Harper, and a smile that was almost mischievous crossed her face. Noah squealed at the sight of Harper, reaching for her with grabby hands, his favorite elephant blanket trailing from one fist. Without thinking, she scooped him up, pressing kisses to his chubby cheeks. Is this okay? She asked Callum, suddenly self-conscious about having her son with her during their whatever this was. Callum was already pulling out the chair beside him. More than okay, he said softly, his eyes fixed on Noah's curious face. Hello. Again, young man. To Harper's surprise, Noah immediately reached toward Callum with his free hand, the elephant blanket waving like a flag of friendship. He's usually shy with strangers, she said, settling into the offered chair. Maybe he remembers me from last night, Callum suggested, letting Noah grab his finger. Or maybe he just has excellent taste in breakfast companions. The next 15 minutes passed in a blur of warm cinnamon rolls, rich coffee, and conversation that flowed easier than Harper would have expected. Callum asked questions about Noah, his favorite foods, his first words, his sleeping habits, with genuine interest. He shared stories about his sister's child, and Harper caught glimpses of a man who clearly valued family despite his corporate success. Your son is incredible, Callum said as their time drew to a close. Just like his mother. Harper felt her cheeks warm. He's the best thing that ever happened to me, she said honestly, even if the timing wasn't ideal. Something shifted in Callum's expression. Life rarely gives us what we want when we think we want it, he said quietly. Sometimes it gives us what we need when we least expect it. Their eyes met over Noah's head, and Harper felt that same dangerous hope from last night stirring in her chest. Then the bell chimed again, announcing new customers, and reality rushed back in. I should get back to work, she said, standing carefully with Noah. Of course. Callum rose as well, straightening his tie. Harper, would it be all right if I came back tomorrow? She should say no, should maintain professional distance, should protect herself and Noah from complications they couldn't afford. Instead, she found herself saying, We make fresh blueberry muffins on Wednesdays. His smile was worth the risk of hope. Then I'll see you tomorrow. As Harper handed Noah back to Ruby and returned to her duties, she could feel Callum's gaze, following her. When she finally looked up again, he was gone, but he'd left something on the table, a small stuffed elephant, brand new but remarkably similar to Noah's beloved blanket. Well, well, Ruby said from behind her, Noah happily clutching both, his old blanket and new toy. Looks like some mercies come in all sizes. Harper touched her mother's necklace, a habit now tinged with something other than anxiety. We'll see, she whispered, but she was already looking forward to tomorrow's morning light. Callum Hayes stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office, staring at the Manhattan skyline without really seeing it. His morning coffee, from an upscale cafe in the building's lobby, sat untouched on his desk, a poor substitute for the rich brew he'd shared with Harper 2 days ago. "Mr. Hayes?" His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "The board members are assembled for the quarterly review." He straightened his tie, a gesture that felt increasingly like adjusting armor. "On my way, Diane." The boardroom was all gleaming mahogany and leather chairs. 12 faces turned expectantly toward him as he entered. Richard Blackwood, his CFO, immediately launched into a presentation about profit margins and market expansion. Callum found his mind wandering to a small bakery 80 miles away, where morning light filtered through worn curtains and the air smelled of cinnamon instead of power. "Callum," Richard's voice cut through his thoughts. "Your input on the acquisition?" He refocused, years of business instinct kicking in. "The numbers look solid, but I want a deeper analysis of their company culture before we move forward. We're not just buying assets, we're integrating people." Several board members exchanged glances. This wasn't his usual approach. Typically, Callum Hayes was known for swift, decisive action based purely on numbers and market potential. The meeting dragged on for 2 hours. Afterward, Callum retreated to his office, loosening his tie as he sank into his chair. His phone showed a text from his sister, Alexandra. "Missed you at family dinner last night. Everything okay? You've been distracted lately." His fingers hovered over the keypad. How could he explain that meeting a baker and her baby in the rain had somehow shifted his entire worldview? That he'd spent the last 2 mornings in a small-town bakery, drinking coffee that cost a quarter of his usual brew, but somehow tasted infinitely better? Instead, he typed, "Just busy with work. Rain check for next week?" A knock at his door preceded Diane's entrance. "Sir, I have those background checks you requested." Callum's jaw tightened. He'd told himself it was standard procedure, that anyone coming into his life warranted investigation, but seeing the manila folder in Diane's hands made him feel sick. "Leave them on my desk," he said shortly. Once alone, he opened the folder with reluctant hands. Harper June Monroe's life lay spread before him in clinical bullet points. 27 years old. Mother deceased 2 years ago, cancer. Father unknown. Full academic scholarship to State University. Dropped out in junior year due to financial hardship. No criminal record. Currently employed at Sweetness and Light Bakery, plus various cleaning jobs through a local service. Then came the part that made his stomach clench. Noah Alexander Monroe, born 10 months ago. Father listed as unknown on the birth certificate. Medical records showing recent treatments for chronic ear infections, all paid through a combination of state assistance and payment plans. Callum closed the folder with more force than necessary. He'd violated her privacy, reduced her life to sterile facts that told him nothing about her strength, her grace, the way her honey-colored eyes lit up when she looked at her son. His phone buzzed. Another text from Alexandra. "Bring someone to dinner next week. You work too hard. Live a little." The words triggered a memory from that morning. Harper wiping flour from her cheek, Noah secure in one arm as she arranged pastries with her free hand. She'd looked up and caught him staring, a blush coloring her cheeks as she smiled. Without allowing himself to overthink, Callum grabbed his coat and car keys. "Cancel my afternoon appointments," he told Diane on his way out. "Family emergency." The drive to Connecticut felt both too long and too short. His mind raced with possibilities and doubts. What was he doing? This wasn't like him. He built companies, made strategic decisions, analyzed risks and returns. He didn't chase after single mothers he barely knew. The afternoon sun cast long shadows when he pulled up outside Sweetness and Light. Through the window, he could see Ruby arranging the day's remaining pastries. His watch showed 4:45 p.m., 15 minutes until closing. The bell chimed as he entered, and Ruby looked up with knowing eyes. "She's in the back," she said before he could speak. "Finishing inventory." I didn't," Callum started, then stopped, unused to fumbling for words. Ruby's expression softened. You know, when I first met my late husband, he was way above my social class. His family owned half the restaurants in Chinatown. Me? I was just a waitress with big dreams and bigger student loans. She moved from behind the counter, her small frame carrying decades of wisdom. But love? Real love doesn't care about bank accounts or social status. It cares about who you are when nobody's watching, who you choose to be when life gets hard. The kitchen door opened, and Harper emerged with Noah on her hip. She stopped short at the sight of Callum, her eyes widening. You're not here for morning coffee? No, he admitted, suddenly uncertain. Noah reached for him immediately, and Callum's heart squeezed at the baby's innocent trust. I was hoping. Would you and Noah like to have dinner with me? Tonight? Harper's free hand went to her necklace, a gesture he'd come to recognize, as her processing unexpected emotions. I can't, she said softly. I have my evening cleaning job at the medical center. I could watch Noah, Ruby offered, making both of them jump. They'd forgotten she was there. He'll be fine with his Auntie Ruby for a few hours. Harper bit her lower lip. The cleaning job. I need the money. Let me pay you double what you'd make cleaning, Callum said quickly, then immediately regretted it as he saw a hurt flash across Harper's face. I don't need charity, she said stiffly. It's not charity. He stepped closer, close enough to catch the lingering scent of vanilla and coffee that always surrounded her. It's me being selfish. I want to spend time with you, both of you, but I understand if you're not comfortable. Harper studied his face for a long moment. Noah babbled happily between them, reaching again for Callum with complete trust. Finally, she took a deep breath. I can't accept money for spending time with you, she said firmly. But maybe I could ask Mrs. Rodriguez to cover my shift tonight. She's been wanting extra hours. Perfect, Ruby declared, already reaching for Noah. You two go ahead. This little man and I have some cookie recipes to perfect, don't we, sweetheart? As they stepped out into the late afternoon light, Harper turned to Callum with a mix of vulnerability and determination in her eyes. I need you to understand something, she said quietly. Noah and I, we're a package deal, and we don't fit into your world. Callum gently took her hand, noticing how her work-roughened fingers contrasted with his manicured ones. Maybe, he said softly. It's time I reconsidered what my world should look like. Behind them, through the bakery window, Ruby held Noah up to wave goodbye. The setting sun caught Harper's mother's necklace, making it shine like a promise, as they walked toward whatever the evening might hold. Harper expected Callum to drive them to some exclusive restaurant in Hartford, somewhere with crystal glasses and unpronounceable menu items. Instead, he surprised her by pulling up to Mason's, a cozy local diner known for its home-style cooking and warm atmosphere. I thought you might be more comfortable here, he explained, catching her questioning look. Plus, they make the best meatloaf in Connecticut. At least that's what the sign says. I've never actually tried it. The simple thoughtfulness of his choice touched something deep in Harper's chest. As they settled into a worn leather booth, she noticed how Callum's expensive suit stood out against the vintage decor, yet he seemed completely at ease. Tell me something real, Harper said suddenly, surprising herself with her directness. Something that isn't in whatever corporate bio I could Google. Callum's fingers stilled on the laminated menu. What makes you think there's more to tell? The way you are with Noah. The fact that you keep a car seat for your sister's kid. The way you chose this place instead of showing off. She met his eyes steadily. You're not just the CEO in the press releases, are you? A small smile played at his lips. No, I suppose I'm not. He was quiet for a moment then. I was raised by a single mother, too. She worked 3 jobs to keep us fed. Died before I made my first million, before I could give her the life she deserved. The vulnerability in his voice made Harper's throat tight. Before she could respond, their waitress approached, a teenager with bright blue hair and a friendly smile. Welcome to Mason's. I'm Lily and I'll be... Oh my God. Her eyes widened as she recognized Callum. You're him. From the magazine covers. My mom has your business book. Callum handled the recognition gracefully, asking Lily about her college plans and seeming genuinely interested in her dreams of starting her own business. By the time she left with their orders, she was beaming. You're good with people, Harper observed. Real people, I mean, not just board members. Board members are significantly less interesting, he replied, then leaned forward slightly. Your turn. Tell me something real. Harper twisted her mother's necklace between her fingers. I'm terrified, she admitted softly. Not of you exactly, but of this, of letting someone in, of Noah getting attached, of... She swallowed hard, of not being enough. Not being enough? Callum's brow furrowed. Harper, you're raising a child alone, working multiple jobs, and still managing to make everyone around you feel cared for. I've seen how your regular customers light up when you remember their orders, how Ruby treats you like a daughter, how Noah looks at you like you're his entire world. And what about you? She challenged gently. How do you look at me? The question hung between them, weighted with possibility. Before Callum could answer, Lily returned with their drinks. Harper wrapped her hands around her water glass, trying to steady her nerves. I look at you, Callum said finally, and I see someone who makes me question everything I thought I knew about success. Their food arrived, meatloaf for Callum, chicken pot pie for Harper. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes before Callum spoke again. I should tell you something. His voice was serious. I had my assistant run a background check on you. Harper's fork clattered against her plate. You what? It's standard procedure for anyone who might be entering my life, he hurried to explain. But the moment I saw that folder, I felt sick. It was a violation of your trust, and I'm sorry. Harper sat very still, processing. Part of her wanted to walk out immediately. Another part recognized the courage it took to confess. What did you learn? She asked finally. Nothing that matters, he said firmly. Nothing that explains your strength, your grace, the way you light up when Noah learns something new. Paper facts can't capture who you really are. She studied his face, finding only sincerity in his gray eyes. My ex, she said slowly. Noah's father. He looked perfect on paper. Star athlete, business major, came from money. He promised me everything. Her fingers found her necklace again. The day I told him I was pregnant, he blocked my number and transferred to another university. I never heard from him again. Callum's hands clenched on the table. I would never... I know, Harper interrupted softly. That's what scares me. Because I believe you. And believing in someone again, that's terrifying. A comfortable warmth filled the diner as the sun began to set outside. Through the window, Harper could see stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. The everyday sounds of clinking plates and quiet conversations created a cocoon around their booth, making it feel safe to be honest. When I was building my company, Callum said, pushing his empty plate aside, I thought success meant never needing anyone, being completely self-sufficient. But lately, he reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers tentatively. Lately, I'm wondering if I got it all wrong. Harper looked at their hands, his manicured and smooth, hers slightly rough from work, and found the contrast didn't matter as much as she'd thought it would. We should get back, she said reluctantly. Noah will be getting tired. Of course. Callum signaled for the check, then turned back to her. Harper, thank you for being real with me. As they drove back to the bakery, Harper noticed Callum taking the long route, prolonging their time together. The night air was cool through the open window, carrying the scent of approaching autumn. She found herself telling him small things, about Noah's first steps, about her dreams of owning her own bakery someday, about the novel she used to write late at night before exhaustion and reality took over. Callum listened with an intensity that made her feel truly heard, asking questions that showed he was genuinely interested in her answers. When they finally pulled up outside Sweetness and Light, Harper was surprised to find she didn't want the evening to end. Through the bakery window, they could see Ruby dancing slowly with a sleepy Noah, his head resting on her shoulder as she hummed what looked like a lullaby. The sight made Harper's heart swell with gratitude for the small family she'd found in this place. "I have meetings in the city tomorrow," Callum said softly, "but I'd like to see you again, both of you. Maybe this weekend? We could take Noah to the park, have a picnic." The suggestion was so normal, so far from the world of corporate takeovers and billion-dollar deals, that Harper found herself smiling. He'd like that. He loves the ducks at Wilson Park. Then it's a date. Callum hesitated, then leaned in slowly, giving her plenty of time to pull away. Instead, Harper met him halfway, their lips meeting in a kiss that felt like a beginning. When they parted, Harper touched her mother's necklace one last time, not from anxiety now, but from a feeling that somewhere, somehow, her mom would approve of this moment, of this man who saw beyond surfaces to something real. The news alert flashed across Callum's phone screen during Thursday's executive meeting. Hayes Innovative Solutions, CEO spotted with mystery woman and baby. New. Family man image or PR stunt? His stomach clenched as he opened the article. There, in slightly grainy but clear photos, were moments from their Tuesday dinner at Mason's. Harper laughing across the table, their hands touching, the goodbye kiss outside the bakery. The photos made their private moments feel suddenly cheap, twisted by speculation and innuendo. "Callum?" Richard, his CFO, cleared his throat. "The Jensen merger?" "Meeting adjourned," Callum announced abruptly, ignoring the startled looks from his executive team. "We'll reconvene tomorrow." Alone in his office, he speed-dialed his PR director, Victoria Reed. "How bad is it?" "Actually," Victoria's voice was thoughtful, "this could work in our favor. The public loves a rags-to-riches romance. A powerful CEO with a heart of gold falling for a hard-working single mother. It's perfect for our image, especially with the Jensen merger coming up. Their board is big on family values." "Stop." Callum's voice was ice. "Harper and Noah are not a PR strategy. Handle the press, shut it down. Now." He ended the call and dialed Harper's number, but it went straight to voicemail. With growing dread, he checked social media. The story was spreading, with amateur detectives already identifying Harper, the bakery, even Noah. His phone buzzed. Alexandra. "Mom would have loved her. Call me when you can." Another buzz. Richard. "Board wants emergency meeting. Concerns about company image." A third. Diane. "Sir, Mrs. Jensen called. Wants to reschedule merger talks until personal matters are resolved." Callum grabbed his keys, barely registering Diane's protests as he strode past her desk. The drive to Connecticut had never felt longer. Dark clouds gathered overhead, matching his mood as he pulled up to Sweetness and Light. The closed sign hung in the window, unusual for mid-afternoon. Through the glass, he could see Ruby pacing, phone to her ear. She spotted him and hurried to unlock the door. "Where is she?" he demanded. "Home. After the first reporters showed up." Ruby's usually warm eyes were worried. "She's not answering my calls." "Reporters? Here?" 3 different news vans. Ruby's voice hardened. "I threatened to turn the hose on them. But they got pictures, Callum, of the bakery. Of Noah." The protective rage that surged through him was startling in its intensity. "I'll fix this," he promised, already turning to leave. "Callum." Ruby caught his arm. "She's scared, not of the press. She's scared this proves what she feared all along, that your worlds are too different, that being with you puts Noah at risk." The rain was starting as Callum pulled up to Harper's apartment building. He took the stairs 2 at a time, heart pounding when he reached her door. He could hear Noah crying inside. "Harper?" He knocked softly. "Please, let me help." The door opened a crack, revealing Harper's pale face. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair escaping from its usual neat bun. Behind her, Noah's wails grew louder. "He's overtired. she said flatly. The reporters woke him from his nap. They were taking pictures through his bedroom window. Something inside Callum broke. "Let me in. Please." She hesitated, then stepped back. The apartment was small but normally cheerful, filled with Noah's toys and Harper's touches. Now it felt like a fortress under siege. Noah was in his playpen, face red from crying, reaching desperately for his mother. Harper scooped him up, murmuring soothing words as she paced. "Your world," she said without looking at Callum, "just invaded mine. They're calling me a gold digger, saying I trapped you, speculating about Noah's father." "I'll make it stop," Callum promised. "My PR team." "Your PR team?" Now she did look at him, and the pain in her eyes cut deep. "The same team that Victoria, Reed leads? I heard her on TV an hour ago talking about how this humanizes you, how it's perfect timing with your merger coming up." Callum felt the blood drain from his face. "I fired her, the moment I saw the news." "That's not the point." Harper's voice cracked. "This is my life, Callum. Noah's life. We're not a story. We're not your image makeover. You're everything," he said desperately. "Both of you. These past few weeks you've made me feel more alive than I have in years." Noah's cries had subsided to hiccuping sobs. Harper sat heavily on the worn couch, cradling him close. "I told you we didn't fit in your world. Then I'll change my world." The words came without thought, but Callum knew they were true the moment he said them. "You can't." She touched her necklace, a gesture that now made his heart ache. "Your company, your responsibilities, they're part of who you are. I would never ask you to give that up." "I'm not giving up anything." He moved closer, kneeling before her. "I'm choosing what matters most." Outside, thunder rolled. Noah whimpered, and Callum instinctively reached for him. To his surprise, Harper let him take the baby, watching as Noah immediately curled into his chest. "He trusts you," she whispered, "completely and without reservation. The way babies do. The way I was starting to." The past tense hit him like a physical blow. "Harper, I need time," she cut him off. "To think. To figure out what's best for Noah." "Let me stay," he pleaded. "Just until the storm passes. Let me show you we can weather this." She looked at him then, really looked at him, seeming to see past the power suits and magazine covers to the man who still kept his mother's old recipe box, who danced with his niece at family dinners, who had somehow lost his heart to a baker and her baby. "Okay," she said finally, "until the storm passes." As if in response, lightning flashed outside. Noah startled but didn't cry, just gripped Callum's shirt tighter with his tiny fingers. Harper leaned back against the couch, exhaustion evident in every line of her body. Callum settled beside her, Noah warm and trusting in his arms, and prayed that some storms were meant to clear the air rather than destroy what lay in their path. The morning light filtered through Harper's kitchen window, illuminating Callum as he moved with surprising domesticity around her small space. He'd stayed through the night's storm, sleeping on the couch after helping put Noah to bed. Now, still wearing yesterday's rumpled suit, he was attempting to make breakfast. "You don't have to do this," Harper said from the doorway, watching him navigate her modest kitchen. She'd barely slept, spending most of the night watching Noah's peaceful breathing through the baby monitor. "I want to." Callum turned from the stove, a streak of flour on his cheek somehow making him look more human. "Though I'll admit, pancakes are proving more challenging than quarterly reports." Despite everything, Harper felt a smile tugging at her lips. "Here." She moved beside him, gently taking the whisk. "The secret is not overworking the batter." They worked in comfortable silence, their shoulders occasionally brushing. Through the baby monitor, they could hear Noah beginning to stir. The moment felt deceptively normal, until Harper's phone buzzed with another news alert. "Don't," Callum said softly, seeing her reach for it. "Let me handle this, please." Before she could respond, A sharp knock at the door made them both freeze. Harper's heart raced. Had reporters found her home address? "It's just me," Alexandra's voice called through the door. "Callum, I know you're in there. Open up." Harper glanced at Callum, who looked simultaneously relieved and anxious. "My sister," he explained. "She's protective." Alexandra Hayes burst into the apartment like a fresh breeze, her designer outfit and perfectly styled dark hair contrasting with her warm, unpretentious manner. "So you're Harper," she said, pulling Harper into an unexpected hug. "I've been dying to meet the woman who's making my workaholic brother question everything." "Lex," Callum warned, but Alexandra waved him off. "I'm here to help," she announced, setting down an expensive leather briefcase. "I've already gotten restraining orders against 3 paparazzi agencies, and my PR team, the good kind, not that opportunistic Victoria, is preparing a statement that will shut down the speculation, without feeding the frenzy." Noah's cries through the monitor interrupted her. "I'll get him," Harper said quickly, needing a moment to process this whirlwind entrance. In the nursery, Harper lifted Noah from his crib, breathing in his sweet baby scent. He was growing. So fast. Soon he'd be walking, talking, asking questions about the world. What kind of world was she choosing for him? When she returned to the kitchen, she found the Hayes siblings in intense discussion. "The board can't force you out," Alexandra was saying. "You built this company." "They can make things difficult," Callum replied. "The Jensen merger is critical for our expansion into sustainable energy. If they pull out, then we find another partner." Alexandra stopped abruptly as she noticed Harper. Her expression softened at the sight of Noah. "Oh, he's even more precious in person." Noah, surprisingly, reached for Alexandra immediately. Something about her energy must have reminded him of Ruby. As Harper handed him over, she caught the look that passed between the siblings, years of shared history and understanding concentrated in a glance. "The board called an emergency. Meeting for noon," Callum said quietly. "They want me to make a choice." Harper's fingers found her necklace. "Between your company and us?" "No," he said firmly. "Between their version of success and mine." He stepped closer, touching her cheek gently. "I meant what I said last night. I choose what matters most." "You can't just throw away everything you've built," Harper protested. "Your company employs thousands of people. You're developing renewable energy solutions. That matters." "So do you," Alexandra interjected, bouncing Noah on her hip. "Both of you. And trust me, my brother's never been more certain about anything." A new knock at the door made them all tense. But it was Ruby's voice they heard. "Harper, you in there, honey?" Alexandra opened the door, and Ruby entered carrying several bags of groceries. She took in the scene, Callum in his rumpled suit, Alexandra in designer clothes holding Noah, Harper looking lost in her own kitchen, and nodded decisively. "Right," she said, setting down the bags. "First, we eat, then we figure this out together." The next hour was surreal. Ruby and Alexandra took over the kitchen, working together as if they'd known each other for years. Noah was passed between them, giggling at their attention. Callum fielded urgent calls from his office while helping set the table. Harper watched it all, feeling simultaneously overwhelmed and strangely supported. Over Ruby's perfectly prepared breakfast, they formed a plan. Alexandra would handle the media, using her connections to shift the narrative from scandal to human interest. Focusing on Callum's charitable work and commitment to family values, Ruby would keep the bakery running, screening visitors and protecting Harper's privacy. "And the board meeting?" Harper asked softly. Callum reached for her hand across the table. "I'm going to tell them the truth. That meeting you and Noah wasn't part of any strategy. That you've made me realize what really matters. That if they want a CEO who puts profit above humanity, they should find someone else. But your company will be stronger for having a leader who understands that success isn't just about numbers." He squeezed her hand. "I built Hayes Innovative Solutions to make a difference in the world. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that the biggest differences start with individual lives. Alexandra cleared her throat. Not to interrupt this beautiful moment, but we need to move fast. The meeting's in 2 hours. Harper looked around her small kitchen, at Ruby's steady presence, Alexandra's determined support, Noah's innocent joy, and Callum's unwavering gaze. She thought about all the times she'd faced challenges alone, how she'd built walls to protect herself and Noah. Maybe it was time for different kinds of walls. Not the kind that kept people out, but the kind that created space for a larger family, a broader definition of home. Go, she told Callum. Show them who you really are. We'll be here when you get back. He stood, straightening his tie one last time. Promise? Harper touched her mother's necklace, feeling its familiar weight. Promise. After Callum left with Alexandra, Ruby stayed to help clean up. Noah played contentedly with his toys, occasionally, bringing them to show Harper as if assuring her everything was normal. You know, Ruby said thoughtfully, watching Noah, sometimes life gives us exactly what we need, even if it comes in unexpected packaging. Harper looked out the window, where the storm clouds from last night had given way to clear skies. I'm starting to believe that, she said softly. Her phone buzzed with a text from Callum. Whatever happens in this meeting, know that you and Noah are my true north now. Everything else is just details. For the first time since the media storm broke, Harper felt herself truly smile. Sometimes she realized the biggest acts of courage weren't in facing the world alone, but in letting others help you change it. The media coverage of Callum's board meeting had barely begun to settle when Harper's past came crashing back into her life. She was working the morning shift at Sweetness and Light, humming softly as she arranged fresh pastries, when a hauntingly familiar voice froze her in place. Still hiding behind that counter, I see. Daniel Preston stood at the bakery entrance, as polished and handsome as he'd been in college. His expensive watch and tailored suit screamed success, but it was the predatory gleam in his eyes that made Harper's blood run cold. Noah's father had finally found them. You need to leave. Harper's voice was steadier than she felt, her fingers automatically finding her mother's necklace. Now. Is that any way to greet the father of your child? Daniel's smile didn't reach his eyes, especially when I've seen such interesting news coverage lately. Hayes Innovative Solutions CEO, you've certainly moved up in the world. Ruby emerged from the kitchen, immediately sensing the tension. Harper? Everything okay? It's fine, Ruby. Harper never took her eyes off Daniel. He was just leaving. Actually, Daniel placed both hands on the counter, leaning forward. I think it's time we discussed custody arrangements now that I'm financially stable. The words hit Harper like physical blows. You have no right. I have every right. His voice dropped to a whisper. I'm his father. I can petition for custody, drag you through court, make your new boyfriend's tabloid troubles look like a walk in the park. Ruby's hand appeared on Harper's shoulder, steadying her. I'm calling the police. No need. Daniel straightened, adjusting his expensive tie. I'll have my lawyer's contact. You, Harper, do give my son a kiss for me. He left as suddenly as he'd appeared, the bell above the door chiming with false cheerfulness. Harper's legs gave out, and she sank onto a nearby stool. I'll close up, Ruby decided, flipping the sign to closed and locking the door. You need to call Callum. No. Harper shook her head. He's already dealing with so much because of me. The board meeting yesterday, the media circus. The board meeting where he chose you and Noah over their demands. Ruby's voice was gentle but firm. Where he refused to step down and instead announced a new corporate initiative focusing on family-friendly policies and support for single parents. Harper closed her eyes, remembering Callum's voice when he'd called afterward. They tried to make me choose between business and humanity. I chose both. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alexandra. Just saw Daniel Preston leaving the bakery. Don't do anything until I get there. How did she? Security team, Ruby explained. Callum has them watching the bakery, not interfering, just protecting. Before Harper could process this, the back door opened and Alexandra burst in, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. "Tell me everything he said, word for word." Harper recounted the conversation, watching Alexandra's expression grow increasingly grim. "He has no case," Alexandra said finally. "He signed away his rights by abandoning you during pregnancy, but he can make things messy, public." Which is exactly what he wants, Harper realized. He saw the coverage about Callum and decided to cash in. Alexandra's voice was steel. Well, he picked the wrong family to extort. Family. The word echoed in Harper's mind. Just weeks ago, it had meant just her and Noah. Now it included Ruby's maternal wisdom, Alexandra's fierce protection, and Callum's unwavering love. "I should end things with Callum," Harper said quietly, "before this gets worse." "Don't you dare!" Alexandra grabbed her hands. "Don't let fear of this coward make your decisions. You think my brother would ever forgive himself if he lost you both because he wasn't given the chance to fight?" The back door opened again, and Callum himself appeared, looking worried. "I came as soon as I could. Are you okay? Is Noah?" "He's napping in the office," Ruby assured him. "Safe and sound." Callum crossed to Harper in 3 long strides, pulling her into his arms. She breathed in his familiar scent, expensive cologne mixed with coffee from his morning meetings, and felt some of her panic recede. "I'm so sorry," she whispered against his chest. "This is all because of the publicity around us. If you hadn't come into my life, I'd still be that empty shell of a man who cared more about profit margins than people." Callum pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "Daniel Preston is a problem we'll solve together." "Already working on it," Alexandra added, typing rapidly on her phone. "My investigative team is digging into his finances. Men like him always have skeletons." "No." Harper's voice was firm. "I don't want to fight dirty. I want to fight right. For Noah." Callum's expression softened with pride. "Then we'll do this your way. Clean, legal, and absolutely transparent." "Speaking of transparency," Ruby interrupted, "you might want to see this." She turned up the volume on the small TV in the corner, where a news anchor was speaking. In a shocking turn of events, Hayes Innovative Solutions has announced a new, corporate initiative focused on family support and work-life balance. CEO Callum Hayes, recently in the news for his relationship with single mother Harper Monroe, stated that the company will be allocating significant resources to childcare programs and flexible working arrangements. The screen showed clips from Callum's board meeting speech, his passion evident as he spoke about redefining corporate success. The camera caught him saying, "True innovation isn't just about technology. It's about creating a world where every family has the support they need to thrive." Harper felt tears prick her eyes. "You did all this? Because of us?" "Because of you," Callum corrected softly. "I finally understood what my company should have been doing all along." From the office, Noah's babbling came through the baby monitor. He was awake, unaware of the storm gathering around him, secure in the love of his mother and the family they'd built. "Go get him," Ruby urged. "Both of you." In the office, Noah's face lit up at the sight of them. He pulled himself up in his playpen, reaching for both Harper and Callum with complete trust. As they lifted him together, Harper realized something profound. Daniel might be Noah's biological father, but Callum was the one who read him bedtime stories, who knew which stuffed animals he preferred, who had changed his entire corporate philosophy because loving Noah had changed his worldview. "We've got this," Callum whispered as if reading her thoughts. "Together." Harper touched her mother's necklace, feeling its familiar weight. For the first time, instead of anxiety, it filled her with strength. Her mother had raised her alone, teaching her that love was stronger than fear. Now it was her turn to prove it. The law office of Patricia Chen occupied the entire top floor of a modest building in downtown Hartford. Unlike the gleaming corporate towers where Callum usually conducted business, this space felt warm and welcoming, with children's artwork decorating the walls and a small play area in the corner. Harper sat between Callum and Alexandra, watching Noah explore a basket of toys while they waited. Her mother's necklace felt heavy against her throat, weighted with the morning's news. Daniel had officially filed for partial custody. Patricia is the best family lawyer in Connecticut, Alexandra assured her, though Harper noticed she was nervously tapping her designer heel. She specializes in complex custody cases. The door opened, and Patricia Chen entered, a woman in her 50s. With sharp eyes and laugh lines around her mouth, Harper recognized Ruby's daughter immediately. They shared the same warm presence and no-nonsense attitude. "Mom told me about the bakery confrontation," Patricia said, settling behind her desk. "Let's talk strategy." She spread out Daniel's custody petition, and Harper felt her chest tighten at the lies woven through legal language. Claims that she'd hidden Noah, that she'd prevented contact, that she was now using the baby to social climb through her relationship with Callum. "He's painting quite a picture," Patricia observed. "Poor young father, finally financially stable, seeking relationship with son, while implying the mother is an opportunist using the child for personal gain." "That's ridiculous," Callum's voice was sharp. "Harper works harder than anyone I know. She..." "Save the character witnesses for court," Patricia interrupted kindly. "Right now I need facts. Harper, do you have documentation from your pregnancy? Medical records, text messages, anything showing his abandonment?" Harper nodded, pulling out a USB drive. "Everything, including the block numbers, the university transfer records, the certified letters returned unopened." "Good girl," Patricia smiled. "Ruby said you were thorough." "Daniel's lawyers," Alexandra interjected. "They're from Preston and Associates, his father's firm." "Ah." Patricia's expression hardened. "George Preston's latest attempt to buy his son out of trouble." Noah abandoned his toys and toddled to Harper, arms raised. She lifted him automatically, breathing in his sweet baby scent. "They're requesting DNA testing," she said quietly. "Standard procedure," Patricia assured her. "But Harper, there's something else you should know. My investigators found some interesting timing. Daniel's sudden interest coincides with his father's firm losing their biggest client, to Hayes Innovative Solutions." Callum went very still. "The Jensen merger." "They're using Noah to get to you," Harper realized, feeling sick. "To pressure you into backing off the deal. Which means this isn't really about custody at all." Alexandra's eyes flashed. "It's corporate blackmail using a baby as leverage." "It also means," Patricia added, "that they're playing a very dangerous game. Using a child as a pawn in corporate warfare? No judge will look kindly on that." Noah squirmed in Harper's arms, reaching for Callum. Without hesitation, Callum took him, and Noah immediately snuggled into his chest, a gesture so natural, so trusting, that Harper felt tears prick her eyes. "We have another advantage," Patricia continued, watching the BA interaction. "Established relationship with father figure, stable home environment, strong community support. Ruby's already volunteered to testify about your parenting, and the bakery customers are organizing a letter-writing campaign." "They are?" Harper hadn't known this. "Small towns," Patricia smiled. "They protect their own. Plus, your stories struck a chord. Working single mother, abandoned during pregnancy, building a life through hard work. People relate to that more than some wealthy lawyer's son crying privilege." "What about the media angle?" Alexandra asked. "Daniel's lawyers are pushing the narrative that Harper's using Noah to social climb." "Which falls apart," Patricia countered, "when you look at the timeline. Harper actively avoided publicity. She's never given interviews about her relationship with Callum. She works the same jobs, lives in the same apartment. Does that sound like a social climber?" There was a knock at the door, and Ruby entered carrying a basket. "Thought you might need sustenance," she announced, unpacking still warm muffins and coffee. "Strategy sessions require fuel." The familiar scent of baked goods filled the office, and Harper felt some of her tension ease. This was her life. The smell of fresh bread, Noah's warm weight, the love of people who chose to stand beside her. "There's something else we should discuss," Callum said quietly. He shifted Noah to one arm and reached for Harper's hand with the other. "I've been thinking, what if we got married?" The room went silent. Even Noah seemed to sense the weight of the moment, looking between them with curious eyes. Not just for the custody case," Callum hurried to add. "I've been carrying this around for weeks." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. "I was waiting for the right moment, but maybe there is no perfect moment. Maybe there's just us, choosing each other, building something real." "No," Harper said firmly, even as her heart raced. "I won't marry you just to win a court case." "Good answer," Patricia approved. "A rushed marriage could actually hurt our case." "But," Harper continued, squeezing Callum's hand, "ask me again when this is over. Ask me when we're free to choose, for all the right reasons." "Actually," Alexandra interjected, "this works better for us. It shows you're not rushing into marriage for custody advantages. You're putting Noah's stability first." Patricia nodded approvingly. "Your instincts are good, Harper. Keep following them." Ruby began pouring coffee into paper cups, the familiar ritual grounding them all. "Now," she said practically, "let's talk next steps." They spent the next hour planning their strategy. Patricia outlined the legal approach while Alexandra handled media management. Callum made calls to his corporate lawyers about the Jensen merger implications. Through it all, Noah played contentedly, occasionally bringing toys to show each of them, completely unaware that his future was being mapped out in this sunlit office. "One last thing," Patricia said as they prepared to leave. "Daniel's lawyers will try to rattle you. They'll dig into your past, your relationships, your finances. They'll try to make you angry, make you slip up." "I won't," Harper promised, touching her necklace. "I learned from my mother that real strength isn't in fighting back, it's in standing firm." Speaking of standing firm, Ruby smiled. "The bakery customers are planning a surprise for tomorrow, a show of support." "You didn't tell them about the custody case?" Harper asked, alarmed. "Didn't have to. They just know one of their own needs backing. Small towns, remember?" As they left the office, Harper noticed how naturally they'd fallen into formation around Noah. Ruby carrying the diaper bag, Alexandra checking her phone for updates, Callum holding Noah while keeping a protective arm around Harper's shoulders. "We're going to win this," Callum murmured. "Not because of money or lawyers or corporate pressure, but because love, real, chosen, everyday love, is stronger than legal documents and DNA tests." Harper looked up at him, at the man who'd walked into her life on a rainy night and chosen to stay through every storm since. "I know," she said simply, and for the first time since Daniel's return, she truly believed it. The morning of the custody, hearing dawned crisp and clear. Harper stood in front of Sweetness and Light Bakery at 5:30 a.m., keys in hand, and froze. The entire storefront was covered in paper hearts, hundreds of them, each containing a handwritten message. "We stand with Harper and Noah. Love makes a family. Our town's finest mother. Noah's village stands strong." Tears blurred her vision as she read message after message, recognizing handwriting from regular customers, local teachers, other parents from the park where Noah played. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" Ruby's voice came from behind her. "They started putting them up at midnight. The whole town took shifts. But how did they know about today?" "Small towns have their own language." Ruby smiled. Nobody needed to know the details. They just knew one of their own needed light on a dark day. The bakery door opened, and Alexandra emerged with Noah in her arms. She'd stayed the night at Harper's apartment, insisting Harper shouldn't be alone before the hearing. The news. "Crews are coming," Alexandra warned softly. "But look." Down the street, people were gathering. The morning regulars who usually rushed in and out now stood quietly, forming a protective line between the bakery and the approaching media vans. Harper recognized the construction crew that came for coffee at dawn, the teachers from the elementary school, the nurses ending night shift. Your community. Callum's voice came from behind her, and Harper turned to find him looking more human than corporate in a simple blue suit. They're not going to let them turn this into a circus. Noah reached for him immediately, and Callum took him with practiced ease. The sight of them together, Noah's tiny hand patting Callum's cheek, Callum pressing a kiss to his forehead, made Harper's heart ache with love and fear. "I need a minute," she whispered, slipping inside the bakery. In the familiar sanctuary of her kitchen, Harper breathed in the scent of yeast and childhood memories. Her fingers found her mother's necklace, and for a moment she could almost hear her mom's voice. Sometimes the biggest act of love is letting others love you back. The door chimed, and Callum entered alone. Noah's with Ruby and Alexandra. They're getting him ready. He moved closer, careful to give her space. "Talk to me, sweetheart. What if we lose?" The fear that had been building for weeks finally broke free. What if Daniel's lawyers convince the judge that his money, his family's status can give Noah a better life? Better than what? Callum's voice was fierce but gentle. Better than a mother who works double shifts to provide for him? Better than a community that surrounds him with love? Better than Sunday mornings making cookie dough and bedtime stories, and a home filled with more laughter than luxury? Harper turned to face him, really looking at the man who'd changed everything. "When did you become so wise about what matters?" "The moment I saw you in the rain," he said simply. "Everything I thought I knew about success, about worth, it all shifted that night." A knock at the door interrupted them. Patricia Chen entered, looking battle-ready in a crisp suit. "They're here. Daniel and his father just pulled up." Harper moved to the window. 2 black SUVs had parked outside, and she watched Daniel emerge, straightening his expensive tie. George Preston followed, a silver-haired man radiating cold authority. They looked like success personified, everything she wasn't. But then she saw Noah through the front window, sitting on Ruby's lap while Alexandra made his stuffed elephant dance. She saw the paper hearts covering the storefront, the town's people standing guard, Callum's unwavering presence beside her. "I'm ready," she said, surprised to find it was true. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters, but Harper barely noticed them. Her focus was on Noah, on keeping him calm amid the chaos. The community members from the bakery had followed them, forming a quiet corridor through the media frenzy. Inside the courtroom, Harper's heart clenched as she saw Daniel and his father at the opposing table. But then she looked at her side, Patricia's confident presence, Alexandra's fierce support, Ruby's steady warmth, and Callum's absolute devotion. The proceedings began, a blur of legal terms and testimonies. Daniel's lawyers painted their practiced picture. Wealthy young father, reformed and ready for responsibility. They spoke of private schools, trust funds, opportunities Harper could never provide. Then it was their turn. Patricia moved with quiet precision, presenting the documentation of Daniel's abandonment. But it was the witnesses that turned the tide. Ruby spoke of Harper's dedication, of nights studying business books while Noah slept, of dreams to own her own bakery someday. Regular customers testified about Harper's kindness, her work ethic, the way she made the bakery a home for everyone who entered. Alexandra presented evidence of the Preston firm's corporate motivations, showing how Daniel's custody bid coincided perfectly with the Jensen merger negotiations. But it was Callum's testimony that changed everything. "Your Honor," he said, his CEO confidence tempered by genuine emotion, "I came into Harper and Noah's lives by chance. I could have offered to solve their problems with money. It's what I was trained to do. But Harper taught me that real worth isn't in bank accounts or boardrooms. It's in the way she reads Noah 3 bedtime stories because he can't choose just one. It's in how she remembers every customer's coffee order and their children's names. It's in the strength it takes to say no to a marriage proposal because she wants it to be for love, not legal advantage." He paused, looking directly at Daniel. "A father isn't made by DNA or trust funds. A father is made in midnight feedings and first steps, in kisses on scraped knees and presence of toy elephants. A father is made in showing up, every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. The judge called a recess, and Harper found herself in a small conference room with her family, because that's what they had become. Noah played contentedly with his elephant, unaware of the battle, being fought over his future. "Whatever happens," Callum said softly, "we face it together." Ruby squeezed her hand. "The whole town is out there, praying and waiting." Alexandra checked her phone. The media narrative has completely shifted. Daniel's corporate connections are the story now, not your relationship with Callum. Patricia entered, her expression carefully neutral. "The judge is ready." As they rose to return to the courtroom, Harper caught a glimpse of her reflection in the window. She saw not just herself, but the shadows of every person who'd stood beside her. Her mother's strength in the necklace at her throat, Ruby's wisdom in her steady stance, Alexandra's fire in her lifted chin, Callum's love in her softened eyes. She lifted Noah into her arms, breathing in his sweet, familiar scent. Whatever the judge decided, she knew now that she wasn't just fighting for custody. She was fighting to show her son that love, real, chosen, community-built love, was the greatest strength of all. 6 months after the custody hearing, Harper stood in a very different kitchen. Sunlight streamed through large windows, illuminating the professional-grade appliances and warm wooden countertops of Sweetness and Light Bakery's new location, a historic building in the heart of downtown. Perfect timing with those cinnamon rolls, Ruby called from the front, where a line of customers stretched out the door. "The morning rush is extra busy today." Harper smiled, sliding a fresh batch from the oven. The sweet aroma mixed with the fresh paint smell that still lingered from the renovation. Her fingers found her mother's necklace, remembering the judge's words that had changed everything. "In all my years on the bench, I've seen many definitions of family. But true parenting isn't about financial statements or social status. It's about love, commitment, and community. Ms. Monroe has demonstrated not only her dedication as a mother, but has built a support system that any child would be fortunate to have." The court rules in favor of full custody remaining with the mother. The memory of Daniel's face as he and his father stormed out of the courtroom still brought a mix of emotions. They'd immediately dropped the custody suit and backed away from challenging the Jensen merger, their corporate strategy exposed and defeated. "Mama, look!" Noah's voice pulled her back to the present. He toddled through the kitchen door, proudly, holding a slightly squashed muffin. At 18 months, he was growing so fast, his personality emerging more each day. "Chef's assistant on duty?" Callum followed behind, looking relaxed in jeans and a soft sweater. His corporate armor was reserved for Manhattan now. Here, he was just Noah's devoted father figure and Harper's. Her eyes caught the subtle sparkle of the ring on her left hand. After the custody battle ended, Callum had proposed again, this time with no legal pressures, no corporate wars, just pure love and choice. They'd had a small ceremony in the old bakery 2 months ago, with Ruby officiating and the whole town celebrating. "I thought you had meetings today," Harper said, accepting both Noah's muffin offering and Callum's quick kiss. "Rescheduled. Today's too important to miss." His eyes shone with excitement. "Alexandra just texted. Everything's ready." Harper's heart fluttered. Today was the official grand opening of the new Sweetness and Light, no longer just a bakery, but a full cafe and community space. The renovation had been her and Ruby's dream, made possible by a small business grant program that Hayes Innovative Solutions had launched specifically for single parents and family-owned businesses. "The press is already gathering," Alexandra announced, breezing through the kitchen door in her usual whirlwind fashion. She'd left her high-powered PR firm to start her own agency focused on community-based businesses. "But don't worry, they're all local papers. No corporate vultures this time." Noah immediately reached for his beloved aunt, who scooped him up with practiced ease. The sight still amazed Harper, how this powerful businesswoman had so naturally become the doting aunt who spent Sunday afternoons teaching Noah baby sign language. Is everything ready in the community room? Harper asked. The back section of the new building had been transformed into a free workspace for single parents, complete with a supervised play area. It was Harper's way of paying forward the support she'd received, funded by a combination of local donations and Hayes Innovative Solutions' new family initiative. Ruby's daughter just finished the legal clinic schedule, Alexandra confirmed. Patricia's offering free consultations twice a month. The bell above the front door chimed continuously as more people arrived. Harper could hear the happy chatter, the community that had stood by her now gathering to celebrate this new beginning. Time for the big reveal, Ruby called from the front. Everyone's waiting. Harper took one last look around her new kitchen. The space was everything she'd dreamed of, but it wasn't just about professional appliances and expanded capacity. It was about creating a place where other struggling parents could find the same support she'd discovered. Ready? Callum asked, softly, taking her hand. Noah reached for both of them from Alexandra's arms, and they moved together toward the front of the bakery. The sight that greeted them made Harper's eyes fill with tears. The entire town seemed to have squeezed into the space. The walls, freshly painted in warm colors, were decorated with framed copies of the paper hearts from that crucial morning. The community table, salvaged and restored from the old location, was covered with photos documenting the bakery's journey. But it was the new sign above the door that made Harper's heart swell. Sweetness and light, where family rises. The tagline had been Ruby's idea, a play on both baking and the strength they'd all found together. As Harper stood before the crowd, Noah secure in her arms and Callum's steady presence beside her, she felt a profound sense of completion. This wasn't just a business expansion. It was a testament to love's ability to transform lives. Thank you all for coming, she began, her voice clear and confident. This bakery has always been more than just a place to get morning coffee. It's been a home, a haven, and now, she smiled at the single mothers she'd invited from local shelters, it's going to be a beginning for others too. The crowd cheered as Ruby and Alexandra helped gather everyone for the official ribbon cutting. Harper handed Noah to Callum and stepped forward with the scissors, but then stopped. Actually, she said, turning to face her family, Ruby, who'd believed in her from the start, Alexandra, who'd fought so fiercely for their happiness, and Callum, who'd shown that true love meant choosing each other every day. We should all do this together. As they clustered around the ribbon, Noah reached out to touch the shiny scissors, making everyone laugh. The photographers' cameras flashed, capturing not a corporate event or a business launch, but a moment of pure joy. The ribbon fell away and the new chapter officially began. People flooded in, exclaiming over the renovations and the expanded menu. Harper moved through the crowd, greeting everyone, while Noah charmed the customers from his perch in Callum's arms. Later that evening, after the excitement had died down and the last customers had left, Harper found herself back in the kitchen. The space was quiet except for the soft humming of appliances and Noah's sleepy babbling from his playpen. Callum came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Proud of you," he murmured against her hair. "Proud of us," she corrected, leaning back against him. "All of us." Ruby appeared in the doorway, Alexandra beside her. Without words, they gathered around the kitchen island, the heart of this new space. Ruby pulled out a familiar recipe card, worn with age and love. "Your mother's cinnamon roll recipe," she said softly. "I think it's time." Harper took the card with trembling fingers. Together they began measuring and mixing, teaching Alexandra the family secrets while Noah watched with heavy-lidded eyes. The familiar motions felt like a prayer, a thank you, a celebration. This was her legacy now, not just the recipes or the business, but the love that had transformed her life. As the sweet smell of cinnamon filled their new kitchen, Harper touched her mother's necklace one last time. She didn't need it for strength anymore. She had something better, a family chosen by love, a community bound by loyalty, and the knowledge that sometimes life's greatest recipes weren't written in cookbooks at all, but in the hearts of those who dared to believe in second chances. 2 years later, the autumn breeze carried the scent of fresh bread through the open windows of sweetness and light. As 3-year-old Noah carefully placed chocolate chips on cookie dough, his tongue poking out in concentration. Behind him, his 6-month-old sister, Grace, slept peacefully in her carrier, dark curls identical to her mother's. "That's perfect, sweet pea," Harper encouraged, watching his methodical work. Her mother's necklace now shared space with a small gold pendant bearing her children's initials, Callum's gift after Grace's birth. The community table was filled with its usual morning crowd. Ruby teaching a business class to aspiring entrepreneurs, Alexandra interviewing candidates for her mentorship program, and Patricia conducting her bi-weekly legal clinic. The bakery had become exactly what Harper had dreamed. Not just a business, but a lifeline for other parents seeking their own fresh starts. "Daddy!" Noah's excited shout drew everyone's attention to the door, where Callum appeared with his regular Wednesday morning surprise, a new stuffed animal for Noah's growing elephant collection, and a fresh flower for Harper. "How's my favorite, chef?" Callum scooped up Noah, accepting a chocolate chip-covered kiss. He'd moved Hayes Innovative Solutions' main office to Hartford, refusing to miss these everyday moments. The company's family-first initiative had become a national model, proving that corporate success and human values could coexist. Grace stirred at the commotion and Harper lifted her, breathing in that perfect baby smell. She caught their reflection in the bakery window. Not just her little family, but the whole beautiful community they'd built. Ruby arranging fresh muffins with grandmother's pride. Alexandra teaching Noah her signature power pose. The walls still decorated with those paper hearts, now framed alongside photos of other families who'd found their way here. "Someone sent you a letter," Callum said softly, pulling an envelope from his jacket. The return address showed a California prison. Daniel had been arrested 6 months ago for corporate fraud, his father's firm collapsing under investigation. He'd written twice before, attempting apologies that felt more like justifications. Harper set the unopened letter aside. Some chapters were better left closed. "Story time," Noah announced, right on schedule. It was his favorite part of their morning routine, the whole bakery gathering to hear Ruby read while enjoying fresh pastries. As they settled around the community table, Harper looked at the life she'd built. A thriving business. 2 beautiful children. A husband who chose love over power. A community that had become family. "Once upon a time," Ruby began, Noah snuggled between his parents. "There was a very special bakery where love was the secret ingredient." Harper caught Callum's eye over their children's heads and smiled. Sometimes the sweetest endings were really just beautiful beginnings in disguise. Reflect. Sometimes true love comes in the most unexpected way, defying all our defenses and fears. Harper had to choose between protecting herself or opening up to a love that could change her life forever. Which choice would you make? Your participation in the channel is very important. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.